She asked the cold billionaire to share his table and warmed his heart. Victor Wilson is a 37-year-old billionaire so cold that grown men avoid eye contact in meetings, and he's convinced himself that's strength, not loneliness. He works Saturdays. Eats alone. Built a billion-dollar empire on the foundation of not needing anyone. Then Jessica Horton sits across from him without permission, watches him hide behind his laptop, and delivers a truth that stops his heart: everyone's lonely. You just call it being productive. Close your eyes for just a moment. Think about the last time a story made you feel something real. Made your heart race. Made tears fall without permission. Made you remember why being human is so beautifully complicated. That's what we do here at CJ Stories. Whether you're returning or just discovering us, welcome home. This is your safe space for tears, laughter, hope, and everything in between. Today's story will take you somewhere unexpected. It'll make you think. It'll make you feel. And I promise you, you won't see the ending coming. But here's the thing, the magic only works if you stay till the very end. No skipping. No rushing. Just you, me, and a story that might just change how you see the world. If it moves you, let me know you're here. Subscribe, like, and share this with someone whose heart needs touching today. Ready? Let's step into today's story. The corner table at Magnolia's on East Bay Street had been Victor Wilson's refuge for 3 years. Every Saturday morning at 8:30, he sat in the same chair, ordered the same black coffee, and worked through reports while the rest of Charleston enjoyed their weekends. The restaurant knew not to seat anyone near him. The staff knew not to make small talk. At 37, Victor had perfected the art of being alone in public. This particular Saturday in mid-June felt different the moment he walked through the door. Every table was full. Tourists crowded the hostess stand. The usual quiet hum had become actual noise, conversations overlapping, silverware clinking, laughter spilling across the room. "Mr. Wilson." The hostess looked genuinely apologetic. "We have your table, but we're completely booked. There's a food festival this weekend and we've been slammed since we opened." "That's fine." Victor moved toward his corner, already pulling out his laptop. "The thing is..." She hesitated. "We might need to seat someone with you. Just until something else opens up. Would that be acceptable?" Victor's jaw tightened. He came here specifically because they didn't do this. How long? 20 minutes. Maybe 30. He considered leaving. There were other places. But he'd already wasted 15 minutes in traffic and his schedule was packed. Fine. But make it clear they're moving as soon as possible. His coffee arrived within 2 minutes, hot and black, exactly how he needed it. Victor opened his laptop and pulled up the acquisition reports. Wilson Industries was in the process of purchasing a manufacturing company in North Carolina, and the numbers weren't adding up the way his CFO had promised. He highlighted a discrepancy in the third quarter projections, made a note to call Davidson on Monday, and was halfway through the next page when he sensed someone approaching his table. "Excuse me." The voice was warm. Almost musical. Victor didn't look up. "Excuse me," the woman tried again. "The hostess said I could sit here? Just until another table opens up. I promise I'll be quiet." Victor glanced up, ready to make it clear that quiet wasn't the same as welcome. Then he actually saw her. She was beautiful in a way that made his prepared dismissal evaporate. Smooth dark skin, natural curls pulled back from her face, eyes that somehow managed to be both hopeful and apologetic at the same time. She wore a simple yellow sundress and carried a worn leather bag over one shoulder. She looked like sunshine had taken human form and decided to interrupt his morning. "Fine," he heard himself say. "Thank you so much." She slid into the chair across from him, setting her bag on the floor. "I know this is probably inconvenient. The hostess said you usually sit alone." Victor returned his attention to his screen. "It's fine. I'm Jessica, by the way. Jessica Horton." He typed another note about the projections. "And you are?" "Busy," Victor said. Most people would have taken the hint. Most people would have pulled out their phone and stayed silent. Jessica Horton apparently wasn't most people. "Busy's an unusual name," she said. "Is that Scandinavian?" Despite himself, Victor felt the corner of his mouth twitch. He caught it before it became anything close to a smile. "Victor Wilson." "Nice to meet you, Victor Wilson." She accepted a menu from the server. "Have you eaten here before?" "What's good?" "The coffee." "You come to one of Charleston's best brunch spots and just order coffee?" "I come here to work." "On a Saturday morning?" Jessica studied her menu. "That seems lonely." The comment landed harder than it should have. Victor looked up. "I prefer productive." "You can't be productive and also enjoy a good meal?" "I don't have time for good meals. Everyone has time to eat." "I eat," Victor said. "Efficiently." Jessica set down her menu and looked at him directly. Her eyes were the kind of brown that looked gold in the right light. Right now, the morning sun coming through the window turned them almost amber. "Let me guess. You have a chef who prepares healthy, boring meals. You eat them while answering emails. You haven't actually tasted your food in years. Victor closed his laptop slightly. You've determined all that in 3 minutes? Am I wrong? She wasn't wrong. Victor's chef prepared nutritionally balanced meals every week. He ate them at his desk or in his car or standing in his kitchen while reading reports. He couldn't remember the last time he'd actually sat down and focused on eating. What I eat isn't your concern, he said. You're right. I'm sorry. Jessica turned back to her menu. I have a bad habit of talking to strangers like they're friends. My mama always said I could start a conversation with a wall. Your mother sounds talkative. She was. She passed 3 years ago. Victor felt an unexpected pull in his chest. I'm sorry. Thank you. Jessica's smile was soft. She would have loved this place. She always said food tastes better when you slow down enough to appreciate it. The server returned. Jessica ordered the shrimp and grits with a side of biscuits and honey. She ordered it like someone who intended to enjoy every bite. Victor heard himself saying he'd have the same. Jessica's eyebrows rose. I thought you just wanted coffee. You made a compelling argument about efficiency. I made an argument about enjoyment. Maybe they're not mutually exclusive, Victor said, surprising himself. The smile Jessica gave him did something strange to his breathing. He turned back to his laptop, scrolling through emails he'd already read, trying to ignore the fact that he was suddenly very aware of her presence across the table. So what do you do, Victor Wilson, that requires working on Saturday mornings in restaurants? I run a company. What kind of company? Manufacturing. Industrial equipment mostly. That sounds important. It pays well. That's not the same as important, Jessica said. Does it make you happy? No one had asked Victor that question in years. Maybe ever. Happiness isn't really the goal. Then what is? Success. Growth. Market dominance. Those sound lonely too. Victor looked up. You use that word a lot. What word? Lonely. Jessica tilted her head, studying him with an openness that made him want to look away. I think a lot of people are lonely. They just call it other things. Busy. Productive. Successful. And you're not lonely? Sometimes, she admitted. But I try to connect with people. Even strangers in restaurants who clearly want me to stop talking. I didn't say I wanted you to stop. You didn't have to. Your whole energy is screaming leave me alone. And yet you're still here. The hostess put me here. You could have asked for a different table. Jessica grinned. Are you admitting you don't mind the company? Victor felt that almost smile again. This time he didn't catch it fast enough. I'm admitting the conversation is less irritating than I expected. High praise from Victor Wilson. Their food arrived, plates of creamy grits topped with perfectly seasoned shrimp, biscuits that looked like they'd been made by someone's grandmother, honey that caught the light like liquid gold. Jessica closed her eyes when she took her first bite, making a sound of pure appreciation. Okay, she said. This is incredible. Victor tried his own food. She was right. The grits were perfectly creamy, the shrimp had a kick that woke up his mouth, the biscuit practically melted on his tongue. When was the last time he'd eaten something that actually had flavor? Good? Jessica asked. It's acceptable. Acceptable. Jessica laughed. You're tasting the same thing I'm tasting and you say acceptable? I don't get excited about food. You don't get excited about anything, do I have that right? Victor set down his fork. What do you do, Jessica Horton, when you're not psychoanalyzing people in restaurants? I'm a baker. I own a small bakery on King Street, Sweet Carolina. I don't know it. We've only been open 2 years. We're small. But we make good stuff. Real stuff. My mama's recipes mostly. That's why you're passionate about food. I'm passionate about things that bring people together, Jessica said. Food does that. It makes people slow down. Connect. Remember things. Feel things. Some people don't want to feel things. Some people are scared to feel things, Jessica corrected gently. There's a difference. Victor should have been annoyed. This woman he'd known for 20 minutes was seeing right through walls he'd spent years building. Instead, he felt curious. When was the last time someone had challenged him? You think you have me figured out, he said. I think you're more interesting than you want people to know. Based on what evidence? You smiled. Twice. You're trying to hide it, but I saw it. That's not evidence of anything. It's evidence that you're human under all that ice. Ice is efficient, Victor said. It doesn't melt. It doesn't make messes. It also doesn't live. Before Victor could respond, the hostess appeared at their table. Miss Horton? Your table is ready. Jessica glanced at the half-finished food on her plate, then at Victor. Something passed between them. Something neither of them said out loud. Actually, Jessica said slowly, would it be terrible if I stayed here? This table has good light. The hostess looked at Victor. He could say yes. He could reclaim his solitude. He could go back to the way Saturday mornings were supposed to be. She can stay, Victor heard himself say. Jessica's smile could have powered the whole restaurant. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Victor checked his email once, but found himself more interested in the way Jessica savored each bite, the way she broke off pieces of biscuit and dragged them through honey with complete focus. "Can I ask you something?" Jessica said eventually. "You're going to regardless of my answer." "Fair point." She wiped her mouth with her napkin. "Why do you eat here alone every Saturday?" "I told you. To work. You could work anywhere. Your office. Your home. A coffee shop. Why here?" Victor considered the question. The real answer felt too honest for a conversation with a stranger. But something about Jessica's open expression made him want to try. "My father used to bring me here," he said quietly. "Before he died. We'd have breakfast on Saturdays and he'd tell me about the business. About responsibility. About what it meant to be a Wilson." "That sounds nice." "It was obligation, not connection." "Maybe it was both," Jessica offered. "Maybe he didn't know how to show love except through teaching you about responsibility." Victor felt something crack in his chest. A small fissure in foundation he thought was solid. "I never thought about it that way. We don't always see our parents clearly until they're gone." "Your mother," Victor said. "Were you close?" "Very. She was my best friend. My business partner. My everything." Jessica's eyes went distant. "Losing her nearly broke me. Some days I still feel broken. But you kept going. What else was there to do? She wouldn't have wanted me to stop living just because she couldn't be here." Victor found himself leaning forward. "Is that why you talk to strangers? To feel less broken?" "Maybe. Or maybe I just believe people are meant to connect. Even people who think they want to be alone." "You think I don't actually want to be alone?" "I think you've convinced yourself it's safer than the alternative." She was right. Victor knew she was right. After his father died, after the weight of the company landed on his shoulders, after every relationship failed because he couldn't let anyone past his walls, he decided alone was simpler. Cleaner. Less painful. "Being alone is safer," he said. "Safer isn't the same as better. It is when you've been hurt enough times." Jessica reached across the table. Her hand stopped just short of his. "Everyone's been hurt, Victor. That's not special. What's special is staying open anyway." Victor looked at her hand, so close to his. He could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. When was the last time someone had tried to touch him with kindness instead of strategy? His phone buzzed. A reminder about a conference call in 30 minutes. Reality reasserting itself. Victor pulled his hand back and checked the notification. "I have to go." "Of course." Jessica moved her hand back to her coffee cup. "Thank you for letting me share your table. Thank you for the conversation." "Was it terrible?" "It was unexpected." "Is that good or bad?" Victor considered the question as he closed his laptop and packed his bag. Good or bad seemed too simple for what he was feeling. Unsettled. Curious. Almost hopeful. "I haven't decided yet." Jessica laughed. "Well, if you ever do decide, I'm at Sweet Carolina most days. King Street, between Hazel and Market. You can let me know." Victor nodded. He wouldn't go. He had no reason to visit a bakery. No time for spontaneous detours. No space in his life for warm-eyed bakers who saw through his walls. But as he walked out into the Charleston heat, past the tourists crowding the sidewalk and the festival vendors setting up on the street, he found himself thinking about the way Jessica's eyes had caught the light. The way she'd made him almost smile. The way she'd called him lonely and somehow made it sound like an invitation instead of an insult. His phone buzzed again. The conference call. Victor pushed thoughts of Jessica Horton aside and focused on what mattered. Work. Control. The things he could manage. Not the strange warmth in his chest that felt dangerously close to hope. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. 3 days passed before Victor found himself walking down King Street. He told himself he was meeting a potential investor for lunch at Hall's Chop House. He told himself the route past Sweet Carolina was just convenient. He told himself he wasn't looking for the bakery as he walked. All of these things were lies. It was Tuesday afternoon in late June, and Charleston was showing off. Bright sun, light breeze, the kind of weather that made tourists think they'd discovered paradise. Victor loosened his tie as he walked, briefcase in hand, trying to look like a man with purpose instead of a 37-year-old CEO searching for a woman he'd met once. Sweet Carolina sat between a boutique and an art gallery, its window boxes overflowing with flowers. Through the glass, Victor could see display cases filled with pastries, a chalkboard menu on the wall, small tables with mismatched chairs. It looked exactly like the kind of place Jessica would own. Warm, welcoming, real. He could keep walking. Should keep walking. Victor pushed open the door. A bell chimed. The smell hit him immediately, sugar and butter and something cinnamon, the kind of smell that made people think of childhood and safety and home. The bakery was small but bright, painted a soft cream color with pale blue accents. Photographs covered one wall, black and white images of Charleston, families, moments of joy frozen in time. Jessica stood behind the counter, laughing at something an elderly customer was saying. She wore jeans and a white t-shirt with an apron over it, her curls pulled back in a loose bun. She looked different than she had at Magnolia's. More herself, if that made sense. Like she was exactly where she belonged. She glanced up as the elderly woman left. Her eyes widened when she saw Victor. "Well," she said. "I didn't actually expect you to show up. I was in the neighborhood." "Sure you were." Jessica wiped her hands on her apron. "What can I get you?" Victor approached the counter, studying the display case. Croissants that looked like they'd been made by French angels. Muffins studded with blueberries. Cookies the size of his palm. Cakes with frosting so perfect they looked like art. "What do you recommend?" he asked. "For you? Probably the plain scone. No flavor. Very efficient." Victor looked up. Jessica was grinning. "I'm kidding," she said. "Try the peach hand pie. It's my mama's recipe. Peaches from a farm about an hour from here. They're perfect right now." "I'll take one." "Just one? You sure you don't want to live a little and get two?" "Let's start with one." Jessica used tissue paper to pull a hand pie from the case, placing it on a small plate. "Coffee? Please. Black." "Of course it is." She poured coffee from a carafe, set both the pie and the cup on the counter. "See, you look like you're ready to run." She wasn't wrong. Every instinct Victor had was screaming that this was a mistake. Personal involvement led to complications. Complications led to weakness. Weakness led to failure. But he sat at one of the small tables anyway. Jessica came around the counter, pulling off her apron and joining him. "So, Victor Wilson shows up at my bakery 3 days after saying our conversation was unexpected. What changed?" "I was curious." "About the bakery or about me?" "Both." "Honest answer." "I appreciate that." Jessica leaned back in her chair. "What do you think so far?" Victor looked around. The place was quiet now, just one other customer reading a book in the corner. Everything about the bakery felt intentional. The photographs. The flowers. The way the light came through the windows. "It feels like you." "Is that good or bad?" "I still haven't decided." Jessica laughed. "You're consistent. I'll give you that." Victor tried the hand pie. The crust shattered perfectly, flakes falling onto the plate. The peach filling was sweet but not too sweet, with just enough tartness to balance it. He could taste cinnamon, maybe nutmeg, something else he couldn't identify. "This is good," he said. "Just good?" "It's exceptional." "There we go. Was that so hard?" "Compliments don't come naturally to me." "I noticed," Jessica said. "But you're trying. That counts for something." They sat in comfortable silence while Victor finished the pie. He wasn't used to this. Sitting without purpose. Eating without working. Being present in a moment instead of already thinking 3 steps ahead. "Can I ask you something?" Jessica said after a while. "You always do. Saturday at Magnolia's. You said being alone was safer." "Safer from what?" Victor set down his coffee cup. "That's a complicated question. I've got time." He could deflect. Change the subject. Make an excuse about a meeting and leave. But Jessica was looking at him with those amber gold eyes, and he found himself wanting to answer. "My father built Wilson Industries from nothing," Victor said slowly. "He was brilliant. Ruthless. Completely devoted to the company. When he died 4 years ago, everyone assumed I'd fail. That I was too young. Too soft. That I'd run the company into the ground within a year. But you didn't." "No. I worked 16-hour days. I made hard decisions. I cut costs, streamlined operations, doubled our revenue. I proved everyone wrong." "At what cost?" Victor met her eyes. "Every relationship I had. Friends stopped calling. The woman I was dating left because I missed her birthday for the 3rd time. My cousin stopped inviting me to family dinners. Eventually I realized it was easier to not have relationships at all. No expectations to fail. No people to disappoint. That sounds exhausting." "It's effective." "There's that word again." Jessica shook her head. "Victor, you can't actually believe isolating yourself is a good long-term strategy. It's worked for 4 years. Has it? Or have you just been too busy to notice how unhappy you are?" The question landed like a punch. Victor felt his jaw tighten. "I'm successful. That's what matters." "To who?" "To everyone who doubted me." And when you've proved yourself to everyone who doubted you, then what? You'll still be alone in that big success. Victor stood. This was a mistake. He shouldn't have come here. Shouldn't have let this woman with her warm eyes and honest questions get under his skin. I should go. Wait. Jessica stood too. I'm sorry. I push too hard sometimes. My mama always said I needed to learn when to stop talking. Your mother also taught you that food brings people together. Maybe you inherited more than recipes. Jessica smiled. Are you saying I brought us together? I'm saying you're persistent. I prefer determined. Those are the same thing. Not really. Persistent is annoying. Determined is admirable. Despite himself, Victor felt his mouth curve. Almost a real smile this time. You're twisting definitions. I'm reframing perspective. It's different. Victor checked his watch. He actually did have a meeting in 40 minutes. But he found himself reluctant to leave. I do have to go. Real meeting this time. Okay. But Victor? Jessica touched his arm lightly. Just her fingers on his sleeve, barely any pressure, but he felt it like electricity. Thank you for coming. And for being honest about your father. I know that wasn't easy. It wasn't difficult either. Not with you. Is that your way of saying you might come back? It's my way of saying the pie was good. Just good? Exceptional, Victor corrected. The pie was exceptional. Jessica's smile could have lit the whole street. Progress. I'll take it. Victor left the bakery feeling lighter than he had in months. Maybe years. He made it halfway to his meeting before he realized he was still smiling. The pattern continued over the next 2 weeks. Victor told himself he was just appreciating good coffee, supporting local business, taking necessary breaks from work. But by early July, he'd been to Sweet Carolina 6 times. He knew Jessica's schedule. Knew she baked the cinnamon rolls on Wednesdays. Knew she took Sundays off to visit her mama's grave. Knew she had a laugh that made other people want to laugh too. On a Friday afternoon in the first week of July, Victor walked into the bakery to find Jessica frosting a 3-tier cake. She looked up, flour on her cheek, concentration breaking into a grin. Victor Wilson. Right on schedule. I don't have a schedule. You've been here every Tuesday and Friday for 2 weeks. That's a schedule. Maybe I really like the coffee. Or maybe you like the baker. Jessica set down her piping bag. I'm almost done with this. Stick around? Victor should say no. He had reports to review, calls to make, a company to run. Instead, he sat at his usual table and watched Jessica work. Her hands moved with practiced precision, creating delicate flowers from frosting, turning simple ingredients into something beautiful. That's impressive, he said when she finished. Thank you. Wedding cake for tomorrow. The bride wanted magnolias because they met in the restaurant. Magnolias? The same one where we met. Small world, right? Victor thought about that Saturday morning 5 weeks ago. How he'd been annoyed at the interruption. How close he'd come to leaving. How different his life would be right now if he had. Jessica, he said. Would you have dinner with me? She looked up, surprise clear on her face. Is Victor Wilson asking me on a date? I'm asking if you'd like to have dinner. You can call it whatever you want. When? Tomorrow. After you deliver that cake. Jessica wiped her hands on her apron, studying him. You're serious. I don't joke about dinner plans. I bet you don't joke about anything. Is that a yes or no? It's a yes. Jessica came around the counter. But I have conditions. Of course you do. 1. We go somewhere you've never been. No usual spots. No places where you sit alone and work. Agreed. 2. You have to actually talk to me. Real conversation. Not just about work or business strategy. I can do that. 3. You have to try whatever I order for you. No safe choices. Victor raised an eyebrow. You want to order my food? I want you to trust me. Can you do that? Trust. Such a simple word for something so complicated. Victor had spent 4 years trusting no one, relying only on himself, keeping every decision under his control. But something about the way Jessica looked at him made him want to try. I can try, he said. Good enough. Jessica pulled out her phone. Give me your number. I'll text you details tomorrow. Victor recited his number, watching as she saved it. This was happening. He was actually doing this. Going on a date. With a woman who saw through every wall he'd built and somehow made him want to tear them down himself. Victor, Jessica said as he stood to leave. Yes? I'm glad you came into the bakery that day. I'm glad you kept coming back. Me too, Victor admitted. Though I'm still not sure if that's good or bad. By the end of tomorrow night, you'll know. Victor left feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Anticipation. Not for a business deal or a quarterly report, but for time with another person. For conversation. For connection. For the possibility that maybe, just maybe, being alone wasn't actually safer. Maybe it was just lonelier. His phone buzzed as he reached his car. A text from an unknown number. It's Jessica. In case you were wondering, I'm already looking forward to tomorrow. Fair warning, I'm an excellent date. You might actually have fun. I know that's terrifying for you. Victor found himself typing back before he could overthink it. Terrifying is a strong word. I prefer cautiously optimistic. Her response came immediately. Progress. See you tomorrow, Victor Wilson. He sat in his car for a long moment, phone in hand, feeling the smile on his face. For years of carefully constructed isolation, and one baker with warm eyes and an honest heart had walked right through it all like his walls were made of paper. Victor started the car and pulled into traffic, already wondering what tomorrow would bring. Already hoping it would change everything. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. The restaurant Jessica chose was nothing like the places Victor usually frequented. Tucked away on a side street in the French Quarter, Leon's Bistro had mismatched chairs, candles in wine bottles, and a menu written in chalk on a board behind the bar. It was exactly the kind of place he would never have found on his own. Jessica arrived wearing a simple green dress that made her skin glow in the candlelight. Victor stood when she approached the table, suddenly aware that he'd worn his usual suit and probably looked overdressed. You look nice, he said. So do you. Very corporate. Very you. Jessica sat down, grinning. Did you spend all day worrying about this? I don't worry. Everyone worries. You just call it strategic planning. Victor felt himself smile. Fair point. They ordered wine. Jessica convinced him to try the chef's tasting menu, which meant surrendering control of the entire meal. Victor found it both terrifying and strangely liberating. For 3 hours, they talked. Really talked. Jessica told him about growing up in North Charleston, about learning to bake at her mama's side, about the year after her mother died when she almost gave up on everything. Victor told her about the pressure of being a Wilson, about board meetings where men twice his age waited for him to fail, about the night his father died and he realized he was completely alone. You're not alone now, Jessica said quietly, reaching across the table. This time, Victor didn't pull away. He let her fingers rest on his, feeling the warmth of her skin, the gentle pressure of connection. I'm getting there, he said. They shared a dessert, some chocolate creation that Jessica insisted was necessary. Victor let her feed him a bite, which felt both intimate and slightly ridiculous. She laughed at the expression on his face. See? Wasn't that terrible, she teased. It was tolerable. You loved it. I didn't hate it. Progress. Jessica set down her fork. Can I tell you something? Always. I really like you, Victor. The real you. Not the CEO version you show the world. The person who smiles when he thinks I'm not looking. Who remembers that I bake cinnamon rolls on Wednesdays? Who's terrified of letting people in but does it anyway? Victor's chest tightened. I like you too. More than I expected. More than I know what to do with. We could figure it out together. I'm not good at together. Maybe you just haven't found the right person to practice with. Victor wanted to believe her. Wanted to believe that he could be the kind of man who had relationships and ran a company and didn't fail at both. But fear was a familiar companion, and it whispered all the reasons this wouldn't work. Jessica, my life is complicated. The company demands everything. I travel constantly. I work weekends. I'm not sure I have room for what you deserve. What do I deserve? Someone who can be present. Who won't disappoint you. Jessica squeezed his hand. What if I'm willing to take that risk? What if I'm not? The words hung between them. Jessica pulled her hand back slowly, and Victor immediately felt the loss. Okay, she said softly. I understand. But Victor could see he'd hurt her. Could see the disappointment she was trying to hide behind a small smile. He wanted to take it back. Wanted to say he was willing to try. But the fear was louder than his wanting. They finished dinner in careful conversation, both of them pretending everything was fine. Victor paid the bill and walked Jessica to her car. The July night was warm, humid, the air thick with unspoken words. Thank you for tonight, Jessica said. I had a good time. Me too. But you're not going to call, are you? Victor looked at her standing in the glow of the streetlight, beautiful and open and everything he wanted but couldn't let himself have. I don't think I should. Because you're scared or because you don't want this? Does it matter? Yes, Jessica said. It matters a lot. Victor wanted to be brave. Wanted to say the right thing. Instead, he said nothing. Jessica nodded slowly. Okay. Well, goodbye, Victor. She got in her car and drove away. Victor stood on the sidewalk watching her taillights disappear, feeling like he'd just made a terrible mistake but unable to see another option. 2 weeks passed. Victor threw himself into work with renewed focus. He closed the North Carolina acquisition, negotiated a contract with a supplier in Atlanta, flew to New York for meetings with investors. He worked 16-hour days and told himself this was better, simpler, safer. He didn't go back to sweet Carolina. By late July, he'd almost convinced himself he'd made the right choice. Almost stopped thinking about Jessica's laugh. Almost stopped remembering the way her hand felt in his. Then his assistant knocked on his office door on a Thursday afternoon. "Mr. Wilson? There's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important." Victor looked up from his computer. "Who is it?" "A Ms. Horton. Jessica Horton." His heart did something complicated in his chest. "Send her in." Jessica walked into his office wearing jeans and a t-shirt, her hair pulled back, her expression unreadable. She looked around at the floor-to-ceiling windows, the expensive furniture, the view of Charleston Harbor. "Nice office," she said. "Very you." "Jessica, what are you doing here?" "I came to tell you something." She crossed her arms. "And you're going to listen because I drove all the way downtown and paid $15 for parking." Victor stood. "I'm listening. 2 weeks ago, you told me you didn't have room in your life for what I deserve. You decided, all on your own, what I need and what you can give and that those things don't match up." "Jessica, I was trying to be honest. You were trying to be safe. There's a difference." She moved closer to his desk. "You think if you keep everyone at arm's length, you won't get hurt. You won't fail. You won't disappoint anyone. But Victor, you're already failing. You're failing at living. At connecting. At being human. That's not fair. Isn't it? When's the last time you did something just because it made you happy? When's the last time you let someone get close? When's the last time you chose something other than work?" Victor felt his defenses rising. "My company employs 800 people. My decisions affect their families, their futures. I don't have the luxury of choosing happiness over responsibility." "You think those are mutually exclusive?" "In my experience, yes." Jessica shook her head. "Your father did a real number on you, didn't he? Made you think success and love can't coexist. That you have to choose between being good at your job and being good at life. Don't bring my father into this. He's already in this. He's in every choice you make. Every wall you build. Every time you push away something good because you're convinced you don't deserve it." The words hit harder than they should have. Victor felt anger rising, mixing with fear, mixing with something that felt dangerously close to recognition. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said. "Don't I? Victor, I see you. I see the man who shows up at a bakery twice a week because it's the only place he lets himself relax. Who smiles when he thinks no one's watching. Who told me about his father's death with tears in his eyes even though he tried to hide them. That man isn't the cold CEO everyone thinks you are. That man is lonely and scared and desperately wanting connection but too afraid to reach for it." "Stop. No. You need to hear this. You think being alone protects you, but it's just another kind of failure. You're failing yourself. And you're failing everyone who could love you if you'd let them." "And you think you could love me?" Victor heard the harshness in his own voice. "You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're kind even when you try not to be. I know you remember small details about people. I know you work too hard because you're trying to prove something to a dead man who probably already thought you were enough. I know you're terrified right now because someone finally sees through all your armor and you don't know what to do about it." Victor gripped the edge of his desk. "What do you want from me, Jessica? I want you to try. That's all. Just try. Go to dinner with me again. Let me in. Stop deciding for both of us what's possible. And when I disappoint you, when the company needs me and I have to cancel plans, when I work through weekends and miss important moments, what then? Then we figure it out. Together. Like adults who care about each other. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You're the one making it complicated." Victor turned toward the window, looking out at the harbor. A boat moved slowly across the water, white sails catching the afternoon sun. He could see tourists on the waterfront, people enjoying a summer day, living their lives without the weight he carried. "I don't know how to do this," he said quietly. "Do what?" "Be who you need me to be." Jessica's voice softened. "I don't need you to be anyone other than who you are. I just need you to let me see that person. The real you. Not the version you think is acceptable." Victor closed his eyes. Every instinct he had screamed to end this conversation. To thank her for coming and show her out. To go back to the familiar safety of isolation. But something stronger than instinct was pulling him toward her. Toward the possibility she represented. "My board of directors is meeting in 30 minutes, he said. "I have to present the quarterly projections. I've been preparing for weeks." "Okay. But after. Maybe after, we could talk more." He turned to face her. Jessica stood in the middle of his office, beautiful and brave and offering him something he didn't know how to accept. Maybe after, she said carefully, you could come to the bakery. I close at 6. We could talk then. All right. Jessica nodded. She moved toward the door, then stopped. Victor? You don't have to decide everything right now. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to show up. She left. Victor stood in his empty office, heart pounding, mind racing. His phone buzzed with a reminder about the board meeting. He had 17 minutes to get to the conference room. To present numbers he'd memorized. To prove once again that he was capable, successful, in control. But for the first time in 4 years, Victor wasn't sure any of that mattered. The board meeting was a disaster. Not because the numbers were wrong, but because Victor couldn't focus. He stumbled through the presentation. Lost his place twice. Had to ask his CFO to field questions he should have answered himself. Afterward, his vice president pulled him aside. Victor, are you all right? That wasn't like you. I'm fine. Just distracted. By what? By a woman who sees me. By the possibility that I've been wrong about everything. By the terrifying hope that maybe I don't have to be alone. Personal matter, Victor said. It won't happen again. But as he watched his VP walk away, Victor realized he was lying. It would happen again. It was already happening. Jessica had gotten under his skin, into his heart, past every defense he'd built. And he had no idea what to do about it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. Victor sat in his car outside Sweet Carolina for 20 minutes before he found the courage to go inside. Through the window, he could see Jessica wiping down tables, her movements efficient and familiar. The bakery was empty now, the closed sign hanging on the door. It was 6:15 on a Thursday evening in late July, and Victor was about to either fix the biggest mistake he'd made or make it exponentially worse. He got out of the car before he could change his mind. Jessica looked up when he knocked. For a moment, she just stood there, dish towel in hand, studying him through the glass. Then she crossed to the door and unlocked it. You came, she said. I said I would. You also said you didn't think you should call me. Forgive me for not taking your word as gospel. Victor stepped inside. The bakery smelled like vanilla and cinnamon, warm and comforting even with the display cases empty. I deserved that. Yeah, you did. Jessica locked the door behind him. Want some coffee? I just made a fresh pot. Please. She poured 2 cups, added cream to hers, left his black. They sat at one of the small tables, the same one where they'd shared peach hand pie 6 weeks ago. It felt like a lifetime had passed since then. Your board meeting, Jessica said. How did it go? Terribly. I couldn't concentrate. Kept thinking about what you said. Which part? All of it. Victor wrapped his hands around the warm mug. You were right. About my father. About me using work to avoid living. About being scared. I shouldn't have come to your office like that. It was pushy. It was honest. I needed to hear it. Victor met her eyes. But hearing it and knowing what to do about it are different things. Jessica leaned back in her chair. Tell me what you're afraid of. Really afraid of. Not the surface stuff about disappointing me or missing dinners. The deep thing. Victor had spent 4 years avoiding this exact question. Had built an empire on the foundation of not examining his own fears too closely. But sitting across from Jessica in the quiet bakery, he found himself wanting to answer. I'm afraid I'm like him, he said quietly. My father. I'm afraid the only way I know how to be successful is to sacrifice everything else. And if I let myself care about you, about us, I'll either fail at the company or fail at the relationship. I don't know how to do both well. Did your father fail at relationships? He was married to my mother for 35 years. That doesn't answer my question. Victor thought about his parents' marriage. The separate bedrooms. The careful politeness. The way his mother always seemed lonely even when his father was home. He was committed to her. But I'm not sure he knew how to love her. Not in a way that mattered. And you think you inherited that? The inability to love properly? I think I inherited the belief that work comes first. Always. Everything else is secondary. What if that's a choice, not a genetic trait? Jessica set down her coffee cup. What if you could choose differently? What if I choose and still fail? Then you fail. But at least you tried. Victor shook his head. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Not easy, but simple. You decide what matters most and you act accordingly. And if what matters most is multiple things? The company and you. Then you figure out how to make room for both. Jessica leaned forward. Victor, I'm not asking you to quit your job or work less. I'm asking you to let me in. To stop treating connection like it's a weakness. To believe that you can be successful and also be loved. My track record suggests otherwise. Your track record is based on you pushing everyone away before they could get close. That's not the same as actually trying. Victor felt the truth of her words settle in his chest. Every relationship he'd had, romantic or otherwise, he'd sabotaged with work. Used the company as an excuse. Convinced himself he was choosing responsibility over selfishness when really he was just choosing fear over risk. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. I don't know how to be in a relationship and run a company and not fail at one or both. So learn. I'll help you. But you have to actually want to try. I do want to. That's what terrifies me. Jessica reached across the table, taking his hand. Tell me about the woman who left. The one you mentioned at Magnolia's. Victor tensed. Why? Because I think she's part of why you're so scared. She wasn't wrong. Victor hadn't thought about Amanda in 3 years, but she was there in every wall he'd built. Her name was Amanda. We dated for 2 years. She was patient at first with the long hours and canceled plans. Then she got tired of being second to the company. She gave me an ultimatum. Her or the business. I chose the business. Did you love her? I thought I did. But looking back, I think I loved the idea of her more than the actual person. She fit into my life without demanding I change anything fundamental. And then she did demand change. And I couldn't give it to her. Wouldn't give it to her. The company was everything. Is everything. Jessica was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you what I think? You will anyway. She smiled slightly. I think you're using the company as a shield. It's easier to say you choose work over relationships than to admit you're terrified of being vulnerable. Of needing someone. Of letting someone need you. That's a nice theory. It's the truth and you know it. Jessica squeezed his hand. Your father taught you that needing people is weakness. That real men stand alone. That success means isolation. But Victor, that's not strength. That's just loneliness with good PR. Victor felt something crack inside him. A wall he'd maintained for so long he'd forgotten it was there. I watched my father die alone in a hospital room. My mother had passed 2 years before. I was the only one there. This man who'd built an empire, who everyone respected, who had everything by conventional standards. And at the end, he died with just me. One person. Because he'd pushed everyone else away. And you're terrified that's your future. I know it's my future. I'm already halfway there. You're 37 years old, Victor. That's not halfway to anything. You have time to choose differently. Doi? I've spent 4 years becoming exactly what he was. What if it's too late? Jessica stood and moved around the table. She pulled him up and wrapped her arms around him. Victor stood stiffly for a moment, unused to being held, unused to accepting comfort. Then slowly, carefully, he let himself lean into her embrace. It's not too late, Jessica said quietly against his chest. But you have to choose. Not between me and work. Between fear and possibility. Between the life your father lived and the one you could live. Victor closed his eyes, breathing in the scent of her hair, vanilla, and something floral. When was the last time someone had held him like this? When was the last time he'd let them? I'm going to disappoint you, he said. I'm going to work late and miss things and forget to call. I'm going to be bad at this. Probably. And I'm going to be impatient and push too hard and expect too much. I'm going to be bad at this too. So what do? We try anyway. We forgive each other. We figure it out as we go. Victor pulled back enough to look at her face. Why are you willing to take this risk? You could find someone easier. Someone less damaged. I don't want easier. I want you. The real you. Damage and all. Jessica touched his face gently. Besides, I'm not exactly undamaged myself. I spent a year after my mama died barely functioning. The bakery almost failed. I pushed away everyone who tried to help. I understand what it's like to be broken and scared. How did you get through it? I let people back in. Slowly. One at a time. I accepted help. I stopped trying to be strong all the time and just let myself be human. That sounds terrifying. It was. It still is sometimes. But it's better than the alternative. Victor knew she was right. Had known it somewhere deep down even as he built wall after wall. Being alone wasn't safety. It was just a slower kind of dying. If we do this, he said carefully, I need you to be patient with me. I'm going to mess up. A lot. I can do patient. Can you do honest? If something's wrong, if you're struggling, if you need space, can you tell me instead of just disappearing? I can try. That's all I'm asking. Just try. Victor looked at her standing in her bakery, surrounded by the life she'd built from grief and determination and love. She was offering him a chance. Not at perfection. Not at some fantasy where everything was easy. But at something real. Something worth the risk. Okay, he said. Let's try. Jessica's smile was like sunrise. Yeah. But I have conditions too. Of course you do. I need you to understand that some weeks are going to be harder than others. When we're closing deals or dealing with crises, I might not be as available. I need you to tell me when that's not okay instead of just accepting it. I can do that. And I need you to keep calling me out when I'm using work as an excuse to avoid feelings. Because I will. It's my default setting. Gladly. Jessica moved back into his arms. Anything else? Just one more thing. What's that? Victor cupped her face in his hands, looking at her in the dim light of the bakery. I need you to know that I'm terrified. But I'm also more hopeful than I've been in 4 years. And that's entirely because of you. That's not a condition. That's just honesty. Then I'm starting off well. Jessica laughed, and the sound filled something empty in Victor's chest. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious he might break. She kissed him back with more confidence, her hand sliding up to his shoulders, pulling him closer. When they finally pulled apart, Victor rested his forehead against hers. I have no idea what I'm doing. Me neither. We'll figure it out together. Together. I like the sound of that. Get used to it, Victor Wilson. You're stuck with me now. Victor smiled. A real smile. The kind that reached his eyes. That's the best threat I've ever received. They stayed in the bakery for another hour, talking about everything and nothing. Jessica told him about the wedding cake from last week, how the couple had cried when they saw it. Victor told her about the acquisition deal, how satisfying it felt when everything finally came together. It was ordinary conversation. Simple. Easy. And for the first time in 4 years, Victor didn't feel the need to fill silence with work. Didn't check his phone every 5 minutes. Didn't think about what he should be doing instead. He was exactly where he wanted to be. When Jessica finally locked up the bakery, Victor walked her to her car. The August night was warm, thick with humidity and the smell of salt from the harbor. Same time next week? Jessica asked. How about sooner? Saturday? Victor Wilson wants to see me twice in 1 week? Are you feeling okay? I'm feeling something. Not sure what it is yet. That's called happiness. You should try it more often. Victor kissed her goodnight, longer this time, with more certainty. When he finally pulled away, she was smiling. Good night, Victor. Good night, Jessica. He watched her drive away, then got in his own car. His phone showed 6 missed calls and 14 emails. The old Victor would have spent the drive home returning all of them. Would have worked until midnight catching up on what he'd missed. Instead, Victor drove home in silence, thinking about a woman with warm eyes who'd seen through all his defenses and offered him something he'd stopped believing was possible. A second chance. A real life. A future worth wanting. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. September arrived with cooler evenings and the first hints that summer was releasing its grip on Charleston. Victor stood in his office on a Friday afternoon, looking out at the harbor and thinking about how much had changed in 3 months. He and Jessica had fallen into a rhythm. Dinner twice a week. Sunday mornings at the farmer's market. Late-night phone calls when he worked late. It wasn't perfect. He still got caught up in work more than he should. She still pushed him to open up when he wanted to retreat. But they were figuring it out. Together. His phone rang. Jessica's name lit up the screen. Hey, he said, smiling before he even answered. Hey yourself. Are we still on for tonight? Absolutely. That new place on Upper King? Actually, I was thinking we could do something different. Come to my place? I'll cook. Victor felt warmth spread through his chest. In the 2 months they'd been together, Jessica had never invited him to her home. They'd always met at restaurants or the bakery or his place. This felt significant. I'd like that. What time? 7? And Victor? Bring an appetite. I'm making my mama's recipe for shrimp and grits. I remember those from Magnolia's. They were exceptional. Jessica laughed. You're learning. See you at 7. Victor spent the rest of the afternoon distracted. He'd been working on something for weeks, waiting for the right moment. Maybe tonight was it. At 6:30, he left the office, stopping at a florist on King Street. The owner recognized him now. He'd been buying flowers for Jessica every week since July. The usual, the florist asked. Not tonight. Tonight I need something special. He arrived at Jessica's apartment in the French Quarter at exactly 7, holding a bouquet of magnolias and gardenias, his heart beating faster than it should for a simple dinner. Jessica opened the door wearing jeans and a soft blue sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked beautiful and comfortable and exactly right. You brought flowers, she said, taking the bouquet. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. She stood on her toes and kissed him. Come. Everything's almost ready. Jessica's apartment was small but warm, filled with photographs and plants and the smell of something delicious cooking. Victor could see her mama in the pictures on the wall, the same smile, the same bright eyes. Your mother was beautiful, he said. She was. I think she would have liked you. Once she got past the whole brooding billionaire thing. I don't brood. You absolutely brood. But it's growing on me. Jessica stirred something on the stove. Wine. Please. They moved around the small kitchen together, Jessica cooking while Victor watched and occasionally helped when she let him. It felt domestic. Intimate. Like a glimpse of what life could be if he let himself have it. Over dinner, Jessica told him about a customer who'd ordered a cake shaped like a boat, complete with edible sails. Victor told her about his CFO's terrible golf game and how they'd spent a business lunch talking about anything but business. You're getting better at this, Jessica observed. At what? Being present. Not checking your phone every 5 minutes. Actually enjoying the moment you're in. I have a good teacher. You have motivation. That's different. Victor reached across the table and took her hand. Jessica, can I ask you something? Always. Are you happy? With us, I mean. With how things are going. Jessica tilted her head, studying him. I am. Are you? I'm happier than I've been in years. Maybe ever. And that terrifies me a little. Because you're waiting for it to fall apart? Because I don't want it to fall apart. Because for the first time, I have something to lose that actually matters more than the company. Jessica squeezed his hand. That's growth, Victor. That's good. It doesn't feel good. It feels vulnerable. Those are the same thing sometimes. After dinner, they moved to the small couch in her living room. Jazz played softly from a speaker. Through the window, Victor could see the lights of the city, people walking past on the street below, living their lives. I've been thinking, Jessica said, curled against his side. About the future. About what we're building. Victor's heart rate picked up. And I think we're good together. Different, but good. You balance me. I balance you. We make sense. We do. But I need to know you're in this. Really in this. Not just trying it out or seeing where it goes. I need to know you're committed to figuring this out with me. Victor had known this conversation was coming. Had been preparing for it, in his way. He shifted so he could look at her properly. Jessica, 3 months ago I was convinced I'd spend the rest of my life alone. That it was safer that way. Simpler. Then you sat down at my table and refused to let me hide. You saw through every wall I'd built and instead of running away, you stayed. You pushed me to be better. To want more. To believe I deserved more. You do deserve more. I'm starting to believe that. Because of you. Victor took a breath. I love you. I'm terrified of it and I'm not great at showing it and I'm going to mess up constantly. But I love you. And I'm committed to this. To us. For as long as you'll have me. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. You love me? I love you. I should have said it weeks ago, but I was scared. I'm still scared. But I'm more scared of losing you. You're not going to lose me. Jessica kissed him, soft and deep. I love you too. I've loved you since you smiled at my terrible joke about your name being Scandinavian. Victor laughed, remembering that first morning. That was a terrible joke. But you almost smiled. I knew right then I wanted to see you really smile. And now I have. Multiple times. You've given me reasons to smile. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Victor reached into his jacket pocket. His hand closed around the small box he'd been carrying for 2 weeks. I have something for you, he said. Victor, you just brought me flowers. You don't have to give me anything else. I want to. He pulled out the box and handed it to her. Jessica opened it slowly. Inside was a key on a simple silver chain. Is this, she started. A key to my house. I want you to have access. I want you to feel like you can come and go. Like you belong there. With me. Jessica held the key up, watching it catch the light. This is big. I know. And I know we've only been together a few months. But Jessica, I don't want to date you casually. I don't want to see where this goes. I want to build something real with you. Something lasting. Are you asking me to move in? Not yet. But I'm asking you to know that I want that. Eventually. When you're ready. I'm asking you to understand that I'm all in. Completely. Jessica set the box down and climbed into his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. You continue to surprise me, Victor Wilson. Is that good or bad? It's wonderful. She kissed him again, longer this time. I love you. And I accept your key. And your commitment. And all the messy, complicated, wonderful parts of being with you. Even when I work too late? Even then. As long as you come home to me eventually. Always, Victor promised. They stayed tangled together on the couch, talking about the future in ways Victor never had before. Real plans. Real possibilities. Jessica wanted to expand the bakery. Victor wanted to open a new facility in Atlanta. She wanted to travel to Paris someday. He wanted to learn to cook something other than scrambled eggs. We could go together, Jessica said. To Paris. Next spring maybe. I've never taken a vacation longer than 3 days. Then it's time to learn. Life's short, Victor. We should enjoy it. With you, I'm starting to believe that's possible. Around midnight, Jessica walked him to the door. Victor didn't want to leave, but he had an early meeting tomorrow and she had to be at the bakery at 5 in the morning. Thank you for tonight, he said. For dinner and the conversation and the key and everything. Thank you for being brave enough to say you love me. Thank you for loving me back. I'm not sure what I did to deserve it. You showed up. You tried. You let me in. That's enough. Victor kissed her goodnight, holding her close, breathing in the vanilla scent of her hair. I'll call you tomorrow. You better. I love you, Victor. I love you too. Walking to his car, Victor felt lighter than he had in years. The fear was still there, small and persistent, whispering that he'd find a way to ruin this. But it was quieter now. Drowned out by something stronger. Hope. 3 months later, on a December evening when Charleston was decorated for Christmas and the air smelled like pine and possibility, Victor took Jessica back to Magnolia's. The same restaurant where they'd met. The same corner table where she'd refused to let him work in peace. They ordered shrimp and grits, just like that first morning. They talked and laughed and shared bites of food. And when dessert came, Victor reached across the table and took her hand. Jessica Horton, he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. 6 months ago, you asked if you could share my table. You warmed my heart and changed my life and showed me that being alone isn't the same as being safe. You taught me that love is worth the risk. That vulnerability is strength. That I don't have to choose between success and happiness because with you, I can have both. He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it. A simple diamond ring caught the candlelight. I love you more than I thought I could love anyone. And I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you've made me. Will you marry me? Jessica's hands covered her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Yes. Yes, absolutely yes. Victor slid the ring onto her finger, and she launched herself into his arms, laughing and crying at the same time. Around them, other diners applauded. The staff smiled. But Victor only saw Jessica, radiant and happy in his. I love you, she said against his lips. I love you too. Forever. Forever, Jessica agreed. 6 months after that, on a perfect June day when the magnolias were blooming and Charleston showed off its finest weather, Victor and Jessica were married in a small ceremony at White Point Garden. Jessica wore a simple white dress and flowers in her hair. Victor wore a navy suit and the biggest smile anyone had ever seen on his face. His entire company attended. Jessica's bakery customers filled the seats. Friends and family gathered to celebrate two people who'd found each other in the most unexpected way. During his vows, Victor's voice cracked with emotion. You asked to share my table, and instead you gave me a whole new life. Thank you for seeing me. For loving me. For refusing to let me hide. I promise to show up for you every single day. To be present. To choose us. Always. Jessica's vows made everyone cry. You were so determined to be alone, and I was so determined not to let you. Thank you for taking the risk. For being brave. For loving me with your whole guarded, beautiful heart. I promise to always push you, challenge you, and remind you that life is meant to be lived, not just survived. They kissed as husband and wife while their guests cheered. At the reception, held at Sweet Carolina which Jessica had closed for the day, Victor danced with his wife under string lights and stars. The bakery had never looked more beautiful, transformed with flowers and candles and love. Happy? Jessica asked, her head on his shoulder. Happier than I knew was possible. Good. Because you're stuck with me now. Best decision I ever made. Saying yes to sharing that table. You didn't say yes. You said fine. Fine is yes in Victor Wilson language. Jessica laughed, and Victor held her closer, thinking about the man he'd been 6 months ago. Alone in restaurants. Convinced that isolation was safety. Building walls instead of bridges. That man seemed like a stranger now. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For not giving up on me. For seeing something worth loving even when I couldn't see it myself. Always, Victor. Always. They danced until late, surrounded by people who loved them, celebrating a love that had started with a simple request and bloomed into something neither of them had expected. As the night wound down and guests started to leave, Victor and Jessica stood together in the doorway of the bakery, watching the city settle into evening quiet. Ready to start our forever? Jessica asked. Victor kissed her forehead. I've been ready since the moment you sat down at my table. Liar. You were terrified. Terrified and ready aren't mutually exclusive. Jessica grinned. There's my philosopher. Come on, husband. Let's go home. Home, Victor repeated, trying out the word. It didn't mean his house anymore. It meant wherever Jessica was. Wherever they were together. They walked out into the Charleston night, hand in hand, two people who'd found each other against all odds and decided that love was worth every risk. And Victor Wilson, who'd spent 4 years convinced he was meant to be alone, finally understood what his father never had. Success without love was just an expensive way to be lonely. But love, real love, was the only thing worth building a life around. He had both now. The company. The woman he loved. A future full of possibility instead of isolation. And it had all started because a beautiful baker had asked to share his table and refused to let him hide. Best interruption of his life. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more.